Hi, welcome back to another episode of More Than Streams, the weekly music marketing podcast that will teach you how to get, you guessed it, more than streams. Today I'm talking to Jon from the Rocket House. Jon is an artist development strategist with 15 years in the music industry. He's done management, A&R, marketing, and he's a DJ and producer himself. Now he helps artists build their brands and grow their careers through the Rocket House, his artist development agency. Today we're diving into branding, one of the most important but most overlooked parts of building a music career. Jon, welcome to the podcast.
Let's go. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
And I'm super happy to have you as a guest because branding is one of the topics that I'm usually very excited about. So I can't wait to hear your nuggets. And I want to start with a question. So I know a lot of artists, they say, I just want to make music. I don't think about branding or marketing. I don't want to do that. I guess you also have clients or you met musicians that all they want is just to produce music and not really do branding or marketing. So what would you respond to a musician saying that?
I'd say I get it. I understand. I'd say like a phrase in the US that we say is like, if I had a nickel, which is one of our currencies, it's like 5 cents, right? It's not a lot of money, but it's like, if I had a nickel, if I had a dime, whatever, if I had $1 for every time I heard that, I'd be a rich person, right? That's like a saying we say here, right? So, I over the last 2 years and doing this specific business that I've been growing, getting on the phone with all these artists who just, hey man, I just want people to hear my music. And then I go, and then what? Like, and your question isn't necessarily like, they're not necessarily saying to me like, I don't care about, or I haven't thought about marketing or branding. Actually, a lot of them are familiar with like the promo process. Like, I feel like what happens is a lot of artists skip steps, right? Like a lot of them are just like in a hurry to get to make music, release music, and then like I want try to drive my streams up, try to drive my Spotify numbers up, right? Like they think that that's the game. And just like a shameless plug again for what I do is there's such a knowledge gap. There's like such a gap in our industry where it's like, artists maybe just watch videos or they see these big name, world famous artists doing stuff and they're like, they think that there's like a clear path to get there, but there really isn't. It's like lots of ups and downs. So what I say to people when this comes forward to me is I ask them, I'm like, what are you doing this for? What's your why? Like, why are you spending all this time, money, effort on making music, putting it out there? Like, what are you hoping to accomplish, right? And then I try to get into the weeds with them on like, what do you stand for, right? Like, what makes you different? Why should people care about you? How do you identify yourself? How do you look? How do you feel? So I have some exercises that I take artists through, if they decide to work with me one-on-one and do this program that I have. The very foundational, very first, conversations we have are around like, how do you think about your brand? And if you don't, that's okay. Let's get your head going in that direction. So it's okay if they don't think this way. I encourage them to think this way because it is so important and it is your North Star. And as you know that phrase North Star, that's gotta be something.
The
okay.
North Star.
And even talking to an artist yesterday who I've been working with for a few months, we're talking about, she's been working on an EP. She's classically trained violin player, like amazing person and talent, but like she's going in this sort of like bedroom pop direction for her own project. And she's like, let's talk about like release plan and strategy and stuff. And I'm like, hey, like we still got to work on this whole brand thing. Like if somebody jumps to your Instagram page right now, like they're not really going to know what they're looking at, like, and we haven't sort of dialed that in yet. So the guidance is that, sure, can you do this stuff without having an idea of like how to define your brand or like what your marketing or promo strategy? Sure, you can figure it out as you go, but are you going to be as successful? Definitely not. Because if you don't know what you stand for, how are you going to get people to pay attention and to become supporters of your movement?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can help them get the streams, you can help them even perform live, but if they don't stand out and if themselves, they don't know why they do it, then what's the whole point?
Exactly.
So it's definitely something they need to work on, and that's definitely something they usually skip. And I also, it leads me to the next question, which is, what's the difference between having a brand and just being yourself as an artist?
Yeah, it's a great question, and honestly, there may not be a difference, right? Like your brand can be your personality. I think the word brand gets tossed. It's starting to get tossed around a lot more now, and brand, it's tough because like, somebody who comes from the corporate world like me, right? Like we have all these sort of corporate buzzwords and terminology, the brand, the marketing, all these things. What I always say is people come for the music and they stay for the person behind the music. And the music is still king. The music is still number one. And I've heard this from people way smarter and more experienced than me still talking about this. And for example, I went to ADE this past year, Amsterdam Dance Event, which is one of the largest music conferences in the world. And I'm going to these panels and I'm hearing people speak, and music is still number one. And that needs to be highlighted and emphasized, right? But now more than ever, people are looking to connect. And so your brand is a combination of visual, right? Like how do you look? How do you feel? Like it's consistency. And then it's also personality. It's also like, what do you stand for? It's like, what, do you have any causes that are a part of it? It's all of that stuff where you can sort of, one of the exercises I do with artists is when I'm trying to help them think of their brand, I actually have them name a few of their favorite artists. And I say, okay, think of like 3 of your favorite artists. And I say, how would you define their brand? How would you like name a few, like list words or phrases that you would use to describe them, right? Like, and my favorite part of this is, okay, you that artist is coming to your hometown and you want to go see them live, perform live. You want to bring a friend with you who's never heard of that artist before, right? So you have to convince your friend to spend money, to spend their time going to see this artist that they've never heard of. What are you going to say to that friend to convince them? How would you describe this artist?
Music is good.
Yeah.
Their music is awesome.
Oh, it's good music. Okay, cool. There's tons of good music out there. 100,000 songs come out every day. What, like, oh no, they're electrifying. Like they'll make your soul explode. They dance, like all these different things, right? So locking in on brand is to me, and what I tell artists is one part visual, like what do people actually see on screen to recognize, and then what do they, the other part is like identity. What do they stand for? How do they make you feel, right? What do you associate them with?
I call it external branding versus internal branding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Same, different name, same thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the things that first what you believe in, what are your values, and basically once you figure that out, you can just start thinking about the external branding as well, and that represents what you believe in and who you are.
Absolutely.
And that also, yeah, as you said, it's like it's a North Star. So
Yes.
Knowing your values, basically the things that you believe in. I think it was yesterday that it was Chapel Roan that she left her manager. What was it? Because they were I try to sound something in America with what are the files? I don't know. Something going on. Something is always going on in America. Someone in America is always boycotting something because something happened. We don't do that as often in Europe. In Europe, it's just like, I don't care. I just want to eat McDonald's. I will go there. But in America, I just get the news by just hearing about an artist leaving their agencies because their agency just, I don't know, the CEO did something.
Yeah. There's, and I actually just before this saw a post highlighting many artists now talking about it because it's a massive booking agent. It's a massive agency in the music industry, and the founder CEO is tied to these files that have been polarizing our country and the world for a long time now. So, yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot going on in our world, in my world, and in the U.S. right now that is ripping people apart or having people kind of say what they stand for and, all that. So yeah, if you have a cause and you believe in it and you want to use your platform as a way to raise awareness or to get people to do something, then I say absolutely go for it. And that can absolutely be a part of your brand. I think from like the nuts and bolts of things too, like, when you have a visual identity, right? Like I will, he's on my list, if we're going to talk about some of my favorite people and how I think about their brands, like there's an artist here in the US called Goshfather, and like, he's got his brand so dialed in. He wears this bright red jacket. He's got long hair. He's got the glasses when he's DJing live. When I first started seeing his videos, I didn't have the volume on and I didn't know anything about him. He just kind of showed up. There's people who show up in your feed one day and they never go away. Yeah. So I'd see these videos and he's like headbanging and his hair's going around everywhere. And I'm like, oh, this guy's like got to be a dubstep DJ or something. And I turn on the volume and he's a disco guy.
Folk.
He's like a disco.
Cool.
Yeah. Disco funk stuff. And I'm like, holy shit. So like, and you go to his page and you look at all his album art and it's all consistent and it's all across the board. It's the red, the white, the black, his look, his feel. And so like, even for me, when I'm making videos or if I'm performing, there's a couple things that I'll wear every time. Maybe like this bright pink hat, that I have, or like this, I had this like jean vest sort of thing that I really only wear if I'm like DJing or something or performing, whatever. And like, I'll wear that. And like, it makes it so much easier. You don't have to think about it, like, you wake up there's all these CEOs who talk about how like their whole closet is just black. It's just like black t-shirts, black pants. Mm-hmm. They wake up in the morning. They don't have to think about what to wear. And it allows them to think about more important things in their day, right? So to your point about the North Star, when you have that stuff locked in, you don't have to think about it as much. You can focus on other stuff. And that's something I help artists think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you mentioned wearing some stuff that really makes you stand out and like doing some moves that make you stand out in reels. But many times there are examples of artists that just being themselves. Like I like saying like Ed Sheeran, for example. So I had an experiment 2 weeks ago. I asked musicians to mention who is the first artist that pops into their head when I say ginger, when I say queer, and when I say forgot the third one, but basically everyone said Ed Sheeran for ginger, which is just who he is, but still he stands out for that, and that's I guess his brand. And for queer, everyone said Chappell Roan, and the older people said Queen, Freddie Mercury, basically. And just what makes you who you are and the things that you have sometimes are enough as your brand. And you just need to note it and just make sure you tell other people that you're aware of that. And that will just what makes you unique also.
Absolutely. I'm very serious and professional and business focused, but I also don't like taking things too seriously. I like to joke around and have fun. And, with my content strategy for my own artist project, I do a lot of like goofy, funny things. And even a friend, the other week messaged me and she was like, hey, just thinking of you. I always see your content in my feed and it's and it's silly, funny, goofy, and it just makes me laugh. And I'm like, good. Then I'm doing, that's my intention, is to make people laugh, especially in the music space. Like, this isn't, heart surgery. This isn't curing cancer. This is like art, right? And we want to try to have fun with it, right? So, yes, to your point, like your personality can be your brand, right? But it's like what makes people think of you, or how do they think of you? And a friend of mine in the music space who I had on my podcast, he said, basically his phrase was that your music is not the product, you are the product. So you, the person behind, kind of like what I say, right? Like the person behind the music, that's what people stick around for. So if you identify as I am the product, I am the person, I am the thing that people are paying for, spending their time with, and then my music is the way to get their attention, that's a way to think of things as well.
If we're talking about all of the things that you should do when you try to stand out with your branding, There are some things you would say that musicians shouldn't do with their branding. Like, what are some of the biggest mistakes you see musicians make?
Yeah, I mean, I think the mistake is just not going through the work, like doing the work to figure out like what you want to represent, what you want to be known for, how you want to look and feel, right? Like inconsistency is probably the biggest thing, right? Like, in the world we live in where it's, social media and online presence is so important. When somebody lands on your page, it should be instantly obvious who you are, what you're about, what your thing is, right? So the mistakes are really not having that dialed in yet. And it's okay if you don't know, or it's okay if it changes over time, but you want to have one place to start. And I think also a mistake is maybe trying to do too much, trying to say too much, right? Like an artist that I'm working with right now, in his profile, it was saying like a few different subgenres of music that he works in, makes music in, performs in. And I was like, that can be confusing because one of his goals, obviously it relates to what your goals are, but one of his goals is to perform more and to get more gig opportunities and maybe more significant gigs, bigger gigs, maybe come on as a support act for a big name artist, right? When a talent buyer or promoter or venue owner goes to your page and they're considering should they book you, they need to know exactly what you're about, what your sound is, what to expect from a live performance. And if you're kind of like across all these different categories, or there's not a lot of consistency, it's going to create confusion. And ultimately, they're going to go with somebody who they're confident in, right? So that's honestly my biggest thing is just consistency and staying true to that. Figure it out first, then stay consistent with it. Dial it back to that North Star. Everything you do should go back to that.
All right, moving on. When you're scrolling Instagram or TikTok, what makes an artist's brand stand out to you immediately? What really catches your eye?
What's Instagram? What's TikTok? Sorry. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh.
I'm making a joke.
I thought you didn't hear the answer.
No. I'm making a joke. When I'm scrolling TikTok and Instagram, what makes something stick out to me immediately? I mean, honestly, it's a good hook. Like you have to get my attention with what is the text say on screen, right? Like how are you getting my attention? You are speaking to me with some kind of whatever you're saying in that, right? I think for me personally, like I love laughing. I love comedy. I love like that's kind of the content that I'm always going to kind of like align with a little bit more. And then I love just seeing like cool and unique things, right? Like I love seeing something that I don't see every day, interesting things or emotional things or things that resonate with me personally, right? So if you're doing a good job as a creator of, putting content together that speaks to your target audience, it should be able to reach them and it should be able to resonate with them.
Well, since you also mentioned hooks, what do you think about stealing hooks? Like when a musician sees content they really like and they want to just recreate it. I do see a lot of musicians saying that they don't want to recreate videos. So what's your opinion about taking hooks from another artist and just using them?
Yeah, I mean, look, the whole culture, the whole world we live in is beg, borrow, and steal. Like everybody's copying somebody in some kind of way. And even in music, right? Like sampling and all that stuff, right? It's been around a long, long time. I think extra points for originality. Actually, one of the artists that I work with made kind of a funny video a few weeks back, and it was kind of like a little, like a little sexual innuendo thing where it's like, the jack of like a headphone jack, right? Like the video was kind of like a joke around him like trying to find the hole for the headphone jack, and there was some like sexy music playing, and like I thought that was funny, and I was scrolling the other day and I saw a video that had that same exact format that I had never seen before, and I sent it to him, and he's like, you got me. Now you know where I got the idea from. Here's what I'll say. What's the phrase? If you're not cheating, you're not trying. Like, I don't necessarily consider it cheating, but I think if you are making an effort to put yourself out there, to promote yourself, to get people to pay attention to you, to notice you, then that trumps anything else out there. Maybe you're borrowing another idea that somebody's used. Okay, well, they don't own the rights to that. They're putting stuff out on a public platform that's free to use, right? So I would encourage artists, like if there's artist A who's not doing any content and not doing anything to promote themselves, and then artist B who is posting content that they got an idea from somebody else, sorry, I'm going to go with artist B because they're at least doing the work and putting themselves out there.
Yeah, I mean, musicians are complaining that they don't have time for marketing. And then I guess that's the shortcut. Just scroll TikTok, scroll Instagram, get some ideas. And if you try to every day come up with a new idea, yeah, you will not have time for music, I guess, unless you have been doing it for years and you are trained.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing right there. That's what I encourage artists to do is like, if you're having trouble coming up with content ideas and content strategy, scroll TikTok, scroll Instagram for like an hour, see which videos you can actually watch the whole way through, from start to finish. They keep your attention long enough. Put those videos into a bucket, come back to those videos, and then see like what was it about that video that kept your attention. And don't copy it. Maybe like take the idea of it or take the format or the structure, but make it your own. And I think those can be some really good ideas because, right, our brain is focused on making music. Our brain necessarily isn't focused on the content for it. But, how can we sort of bridge the gap and make it a little bit easier and still, put ourselves out there?
Right. Yeah, 100%. And since you also mentioned target audience, I think that's also something that a lot of artists struggle with. I guess a lot of them don't even know what target audience means in marketing. Mm-hmm. So how do you help artists find out their target audience?
Yeah, we're using more corporate stuffy terminology, right? Like the target audience. Yeah. And for those who don't know, I mean, target audience is really a marketing term that like brands and companies will think of like, who am I selling my product to, right? That's ultimately like our target audience. Who do we want to care? Who do we want to resonate? I think the easiest way to think about it is like, what kind of music do I make? Who do I sound like? What other artists are kind of in my space that people might recognize? And I think one of the easiest cheat codes for this is like, we've all seen the videos where it's like, if you like, you mentioned Ed Sheeran, like if you like Ed Sheeran or if you like Chappell Roan, like, if you like these big name artists, then check me out. Or like, can you imagine if like, Ed Sheeran and Bad Bunny had a baby? Well, now you've met me, and that's the music I make, So like,
I don't want to imagine.
An established music marketer in this space that I look up to talks about hooks as a way to talk to your audience, right? So like using the hook to talk to your target audience. But how do you come up with like, who likes my music, who messes with me, that sort of thing? Well, you can basically start with your music first, and then it's all about testing, right? Like when we talk about content specifically, we think about like different content buckets, right? Like, okay, maybe we have music content, performance content, we have studio content, we have personality content, emotional content, which could be happy, sad, funny, angry, whatever it is. And the more that we put out there, the more data we're able to collect. So really we're not just talking about putting out content or putting out music consistently just because we're trying to get people to notice us, but it's actually a way to collect data. And the more that we do that, the more that we can put things out, the more we can collect back, and we can say, okay, which one did well, which one seemed to resonate with an audience. Let's lean in on that stuff, fail fast, stop doing the stuff that isn't working. Like I see people all the time, especially I hang out on Reddit and all that stuff. They're like, oh man, I post like every day or I post multiple times a day, but I just can't get past a few hundred views and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, stop doing what you're doing and try something new.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's, I don't know if I directly answered your question, but it's sort of a combination of like, who else is in my lane? Who else do I sound like that an audience would know? And then, put out my stuff that would sort of like resonate, like speak to them in a way that like, hey, you've found me. You've found Bad Bunny meets Ed Sheeran. you know? Welcome to it. My buddy yesterday actually put out one that I liked that was like, if you're seeing this video, chances are you like Latin music. That was like what the hook said.
It's a nice one. Yeah.
Which is cool.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really like that in your answer you didn't even mention like ages or demographics. Like you didn't even say countries, you didn't say ages. And I do think if you're coming from a marketing world, like ages and countries is like the number one thing. Basically, which ages you target, which is also important if you create ads, I guess. But you can also do a wider audience with ads and then let Meta find the audience. So I guess if you write as the caption something like, if you like electronic music, then you found your new favorite artist, for example, and then Meta will just target the right person. It does matter also for like live shows, I guess, right? I mean, you can... Do you think, because you didn't mention ages, but probably that's also something that musicians need to figure out in a way that they want to perform in like this kind of clubs, so they're going to try to appeal to a younger audience, and actually that's also going to affect your content. So if you think that your content is going to appeal to Gen Zs and you want to go to clubs and perform to this kind of people, then your entire marketing and branding should appeal to this kind of people, and everything you do, for example, trends or how you appear on the screen is also important. So just because you didn't mention that, but I guess ages and countries, demographics, all of those things still matter for your target audience when you try to figure it out.
Yes, you're right. I did sort of focus on maybe people who'd be more likely to like your music, which would be like interest categories or sounds like or similar audiences. But yes, the very fundamentals, the very foundations of like marketing and advertising as a whole is using data, right? I did talk about collecting data and analyzing that data. I did talk about it in a bit of a different way, but yeah, I mean, you can go on your Spotify for artists. You can see where people are listening from. You can learn about their demographics that way, right? You can use all these platforms that you're actively putting stuff out on to collect and say, hey, like, who are my people? I mean, I'll be honest with you, like when I'm doing ad campaigns, I keep it pretty simple, and both for myself and for the artists that I work with, we're talking about, pretty general age range, like 18 to 45, or maybe even a little older, maybe 18 to 50, 65, whatever that is. Tier 1, tier 2 countries to cast a wide net, and then you can see what the data comes back with. And yeah, if you're going on tour and you want to focus on one specific region, absolutely do that. Or if you're trying to figure out where you want to go on tour, because where's my biggest audience, where are my most listeners from, that's definitely some ammo to use as well.
Cool. That's also a way to look at it. First, look at the analytics, and if you can't figure out your audience yourself, just see which really demographics just really care about your content and watches it. And if you go to I think a lot of artists just miss this, they don't watch and learn their analytics, and this way they don't really know who their content mostly appeal to. But yeah, you can create one video saying, I create electronic music for people who broke up with their partner recently or something like that. Then this video goes viral. Go to the analytics and just see which ages and countries found this video. Absolutely. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing too, like, I mean, honestly, if you create a place for people, like you want a really good funnel system set up too as an artist, right? And a place to capture information, right? And if you have as simply as somebody who opts in to receive an email from you or a text message from you, like those are people who've said, yes, I want to hear from you. Maybe you don't have like you can ask some demographic information, or you can find out at least where they're based or all that. But like those people are going to be the ones who like actually want to hear from you. That's the target audience, is people who've said yes, clicked a button, filled out the form, right?
Now, John, I want to talk about the monster in the room. I want to talk about AI music, which is something I talk a lot about with guests on my show in 2026, because I do think it's just one of the biggest topics now in music. So basically, AI music is flooding the industry, and how does strong branding help musicians stand out in a world where anyone can just make a song in 30 seconds?
Yeah. Be human. Like that is the number one thing. And it's like now more than ever, it's important to show our humanness, right? Like that is going back to the brand conversation, going back to like, people come from the music, stay for the person behind the music. Look, whatever your process is for creating music, there's going to be a lot of people using AI as maybe a tool. I don't know about creating the whole thing from start to finish in 30 seconds by just giving it a prompt. I did have a conversation yesterday with somebody who reached out to me and wanted help promoting his music, and, told me that he wants to or is building an AI artist project. And I was very real with him. I was like, look, man, this kind of goes against everything that I do and that I say to artists and that I work on, because and he was using other AI artists as an example. He's like, well, look, they got 17 million streams. And I'm like, okay, so what I'm hearing is you want to take a shortcut to success, or what you consider success, which, again, to your name of this podcast, right, is big stream numbers, because you think, I don't know, the streams are going to make you money. Like when I man, we're getting me heated up here. All right. When the conversations start with making money in music, my brain is just like, all right, the people who are just trying to make money in being in music are doing it for the wrong reasons, in my opinion. And it's probably one of the hardest industries to actually make money in. Like, if you're a smart business person, you're not working in music. You're going elsewhere. And I subscribe to this one guy, Bob Lefsetz. He sends emails. He's like an industry guy. Like, people look up to this dude. He sends emails out every day on different subjects. And he's said it multiple times in recent months, where it's like what is the exact phrasing he uses? He's like, the best and brightest aren't working in music, because there's no money in it. That's not where it is, right? And so when I get on a phone call with somebody and one of the first things they say to me is like, I want to make money. They want to spend $500 on an ad campaign and they want to make money. I'm like, what are you talking about? So sorry, you can tell this really gets me fired up here.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah,
100%.
So this artist has been in the game a long time, and it just sounds like they're exhausted, and they want to just figure out a cheat code to getting numbers up and trying to get some royalties and money coming in, and that the answer to that is AI, because they're looking at all these other artists who are blowing up and they're cartoons, and they're like. And he's like, yeah, so I'm thinking about, I'll do this content with a cartoon character and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? And, I basically just told him, I was like, look, I don't, this goes against everything I do with artists. I talk to them about showing their personality. I talk about being human. I talk about how important now, more than ever, it is important for us to be humans and to connect with other humans. And if we're throwing something into that is not real, that is manufactured, it goes against all that stuff. And maybe objectively the music can be good. Sure, fine. If you like the music, great. But with what I do and helping artists build brands and actually work toward a successful career in music, I say use the tools you have, but stay true to yourself. Like an earlier comment, stay true to yourself.
Yeah, and your audience, they will definitely know if you're fake, and they will appreciate it if you will be yourself, basically. And that's how you stand out, because so many musicians don't want to be themselves. I mean, they don't want to really share their personality and what they believe in and who they are, because they just want to be their music. And yeah, a lot of people just want someone to connect with. So that's branding.
Yeah, well, yes, that is branding. And there's definitely layers of this, right? To your point about people don't want to share their personality. People are uncomfortable in front of the camera. What we're encouraging artists to do nowadays, where it's talk to camera or whatever that is. Some of them do shroud behind the mystery. Some of them want to just be the stage presence, But we're moving into a place where it's the more that we show who we are and our personality, the more people are going to latch onto us. And so it's not a requirement, but if you got these, and it always ties back to goals. I'm a big goal person. So I work with artists and I say, what are your actual goals? What are you trying to accomplish? If you just want to be a hobbyist and you just want to do whatever, fine, great. But if you want to be, selling out 60,000 person arenas or headlining Coachella or something like that, you got to have an audience, you got to have a community, you got to have fans, and you're not going to get them There's going to be obviously exceptions to every rule, maybe these mysterious personas that come out there, but like for the most part, the vast majority of people have to like show people who they are.
Yeah. I mean, if you do want to perform live and if you want to have big venues, you need more than streams.
Yeah. More than streams. That's podcast name.
Yeah. That's how I wrap up my episodes. We need to say it at least once. And it's a great place to say thank you, Jon, for coming here today. It was great. Thank you very much. And please share, how can artists work with you and where can they find the Racket House?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you so much, Finch, for having me and for reaching out. This is really fun from half a world away. We're obviously on the same mission to help as many artists be successful as possible in different ways. And obviously success is subjective and everyone's got their different definition of it. But yeah, to find me, my website is just therackethouse.com. And my socials are at The Racket House, and that's racket like tennis racket. And then my artist name is Racket Club. That's how they're kind of tied into each other. So if you want to check my music out or any of the stuff I do on my artist project and some of my personal content, it's just at Racket Club with 3 Bs. So check me out. I do all kinds of one-on-one coaching, mentoring. I also do campaigns and things like that. Starting up a 6-week Artist Foundation sprint next week as well. So that'll be on a group setting. So yeah, if you want to find me, you'll know how.
Awesome. Yeah. Check him out. And thanks again. Definitely, I will talk to you again. And in the future, yeah, if we can meet again about a different subject, performing live, or how to grow as a musician. Basically, I know that you have a lot to share. So yeah, hope to see you again.
Awesome, man. Hopefully in real life someday soon too, right?
Oh yeah, if we go to the US this year, hopefully.
Or yeah, somewhere in the world.
Or you come to Bulgaria.
Let's go. All right. I'm coming to Bulgaria.
Stay safe.